Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy DrewSpacely here again. Today, we're going to rank the top 15 bosses in Lords of the Fallen. I'm going to rank them off difficulty, art direction, and move sets. Also, a tiny disclaimer, I never fought Eliane the Starved, but let me know in the comments section where you guys would put her, because she's not going to be in this ranking. Who's going to claim the top spot? Let's find out. But first and foremost, if you've been watching my content for a little bit, please consider subscribing. I post content weekly, and you don't want to miss a thing. Thanks. Number 15, Skinstealer. Starting off this list, we have the Skinstealer. Overall, I would consider myself a fan of his design. I love the fact that he has 4 arms, and that adds nicely to his movesets. Plus, if you're not dodging at the correct moment, you can suffer many late hits. My main gripe with this boss is that it's essentially a mini-boss, and you fight him multiple times throughout the game after the initial encounter, and it's basically a lesser reskin of the Lightreaper, just way easier to beat. Number 14, the Hollow Crow. Now, initially when I saw this boss in promotional art, I was a huge fan. Who doesn't want to fight a badass skull crow? Shit, I know I did. But much to my surprise, you actually never fight this boss head to head. It's actually being manipulated by a ghost woman in Umbral, and in order to kill the crow, you have to damage the lady in Umbral yourself. Now, I have many issues with this, starting with the fact that the boss fight starts you in Umbral to progress the fight, and I'm assuming the developers probably knew it was far too easy to beat otherwise, so they take the extra life away from the player to seemingly increase the difficulty a bit. Also, it's broken into 3 phases and 2 halves to each phase. Each phase is just dodging adds until you get the chance to attack the ghost lady, and once you succeed with that, there's another half of the phase where you have to dodge ice attacks from the crow. It's just a long, overly drawn out fight and poorly designed in my opinion. Its only saving grace is the badass design of the crow, so it's placed at number 14. Number 13, the Hushed Saint. Yeah, good luck saying that one 3 times fast. This is another boss fight in this game, where it's just drawn out for far too long. The Hushed Saint by itself is actually a really cool, fun boss when you fight him head to head and there's great iframes. I'm really a big fan of the Saint's overall design, but where they lose me is the horse sections of this fight. It's just mind-numbingly boring sections where you dodge his attacks until he eventually decides to attack the player again. Now, you could say this is just an endurance fight, and we gotta get good and pay attention, and I would agree. Yes, that's exactly what you have to do to win this fight. But if you die, it's just another long, overly drawn out fight once again, and it's entirely unnecessary because the fight with the Hushed Saint, when you 1v1 him, is already a decent challenge for an early game boss as it is. It's fluent, and the dodge feels great, but at times it gets boring waiting for the moments to punish. Number 12, the Sacred Resonance of Tenacity. Now, Sacred Resonance is technically another mini-boss which gets its own boss fight in the game. Art direction wise, there's nothing too crazy going on here. It's just a decently cool design of a buff dude with a bell on his head. But what really put him at number 12 for me was the fact that I loved his movesets, and the run back and extra adds within the fight makes it incredibly difficult and memorable for me. Every time I saw him after that point, it made me check myself and focus up, because I knew it was going to be a battle, and if I wasn't careful or if I didn't dodge at the correct time, this dude would catch me slipping. Number 11, Paladin's Burden. Out of all the class designs in the game, Paladin's Burden has by far my favorite armor set for the start of the game. It's a little strange you don't acquire after killing the boss. Y'all trying to sell that deluxe edition gave y'all a missed opportunity. This boss can be the definition of toxic at times. Not only do you have to fight him in Umbral, taking away your second life, but it hands down has one of the worst runbacks in the entire game, filled with mini bosses and aggressive as hell adds that will literally shoot you with arrows while fighting this boss. It drove me insane at times, but in the end I took home the win and learned to stay at certain parts of the arena to stay away from his arrows. Like, whose idea was this? Terrible. Number 10, Pieta, she of Blessed Renewal. One of the first fights in the game, and you're made in Pieta. I'm a huge fan of Pieta's armor set, such a cool aesthetic being covered in blood. I'm generally curious about the lore behind that. Someone let me know in the comments section, why is Pieta covered in blood? Her movesets are also well telegraphed, and she uses holy arrows and holy projections of herself to keep the player on their toes. Overall, I'm a fan of this boss fight, and I think she's a great opening boss fight within the game. Number 9, Crimson Rector, Percival. Yet another mini-boss, which gets its own moment to shine, and boy, does Percival shine bright. At this point in the game where you fight this boss, it's such a great place for difficulty and tension. The iframes feel very smooth, and he's constantly challenging the player with holy projections of himself to always keep the player on the move. This was the moment in the game where I really started to enjoy Lords of the Fallen. Not only do I love this boss's armor set, but I really enjoy his movesets. And I won't lie, as soon as I found him in the wild, I fought him repeatedly to obtain his helmet. Because that helmet is sexy as hell. Number 8. Abiding Defenders. Abiding Defenders is a duo fight within Lords of the Fallen. Regardless of having to fight 2 bosses at once, I really enjoyed this fight and the rewards that come with it. Now, it doesn't reach the same heights as Orange and Smoke does, but I will say that this fight is at least fair and doesn't gank the hell out of the player. I love both of their designs, and I think the arena you fight them in is really cool, and walking up to them made me feel like something was coming. And that feeling leading up to a boss fight sometimes can be better than the boss itself. It's not incredibly difficult by any means, but it sure was fun, and they had a great boss design. Number 7. The Congregator of Flesh. Being a rare defender and enjoyer of Dark Souls 2, I love the Congregator of Flesh. I don't know what it is about this boss fight and boss design, but it gave me huge Dark Souls 2 vibes. Dropping into the depths for the first time was exciting, and getting face to face with this monstrosity is just truly epic. Once you drop this boss's shield, as long as you stay on its ass, dodge at the correct moments, and steer clear of its poison, you'll beat him fairly quickly and easily. But based off nostalgia and looks alone, I decided to put the Congregator at number 7. Number 6. Spurned Progeny. The Spurned Progeny is truly a spectacle to behold. This boss fight is broken up into 2 parts. Initially out the gate, you can just stay behind and under the boss, and attack its feet while dodging the swipes of its hands. But once he starts to obtain enough damage, he'll quite literally gag molten lava on the entire battlefield, forcing the player up some stairs and onto some ledges. Once on top, you have to weave and dodge all sorts of attacks, while using any chance you can to punish the boss. Overall, this boss was quite fun for me, and it's super cinematic. I love the overall design, and I think even with all the cinematic aspects to this fight, unlike some of the earlier fights I've mentioned, this one managed to keep me engaged and left a great impression on me after I beat it. Number 5. The Sundred Monarch. Now, initially I was let down by the Sundred Monarch because he's essentially the final actual boss fight within Lords of the Fallen. But witnessing what followed afterwards, it made this boss fight seem like a masterpiece. I'm looking at you, Adir. I do love the look of the Sundred Monarch, and overall his movesets are fair. Took me a couple tries to beat this boss, but once everything clicked, it became a piece of cake. This fight has great boss tells and spectacle. Plus, the area leading up to this fight is definitely one of the coolest and hardest areas within the game, so I put all of that into consideration. Number 4. The Lightreaper. The Lightreaper kicked my ass repeatedly, 3 times actually, leading up to the final showdown with him, where I finally got to take him down. I love the look and overall lore behind this boss. The opening sequence in the game indicates that he's been the one killing majority of the lamp bearers, and is responsible for plenty of the vestiges we have around the world of Lords of the Fallen, because he's seeking our lamp for himself. I'm not a huge fan of the dragon sequences in this fight. Reminds me too much of the Hush Saints horse sections. Yeah, say that tongue twister 3 times in a row is from hell. But after you solve the puzzle and drop the Lightreaper's shield, you get to 1v1 him, and it's really a fun fight. Just like the Skinstealer, if you don't dodge at the right time, you can get hit at the end of a combo, but besides that, this boss is mostly fair. Majority of the bosses in this game aren't the hardest, but this took me a couple tries to beat, and when it comes to memorable boss fights, this one will take the cake. Number 3. Judge Cleric, the Radiant Sentinel. We've now made it to the top 3. Judge Cleric starts off simple enough. Another boss with holy damage that has good iframes and shoots arrows down at the player if you don't move out the way. These arrows can be extremely potent if you don't stay on the move, and simultaneously you're trying to dodge the boss's attacks. After beating this form, you're introduced to a fire version of Judge Cleric, and this phase works similar to the first one, but instead this time you're trying to dodge fire blasts. I'm a huge fan of both these bosses' armor sets and designs. I found this fight to be fun, challenging, and I really enjoyed the boss loot you can obtain after beating them and using their remembrance. I really have nothing bad to say about the Judge Cleric, and it's really a highlight for Lords of the Fallen. Number 2. Tancred, Master of Castigations, and Reinhold the Immured. Tancred possesses one of my personal favorite armor sets within Lords of the Fallen, and by far suffers the most messed up and tragic transformations out of all the boss fights within the game. Once again, this boss fight feels smooth and has generous iframes, and after beating Tancred's first phase, he'll morph into Reinhold the Immured. Resembling somewhat of a dead horse, this phase gave me the creeps and I thought it looked incredible. Difficulty wasn't so much my driving factor with this ranking, but it's not a pushover either. It took me a couple tries, and he's at the bottom of a tower, so if you're out of seeds, then I hope you enjoy that run back. Ouch. This is another boss fight that has a pretty great remembrance too. just off the armor alone, and to me, this was just one of the best moments this game had to offer. Number 1. Harrower Dervla, the Pledged Knight, and the Unbroken Promise. The top spot goes to Harrower Dervla and the Unbroken Promise. Both these phases just had some badass boss designs. The first phase was simple enough. Majority of the attacks can either be dodged easily with generous iframes, or just walked around entirely once you learn your footing within the fight. The most difficult aspect of this portion of the fight is dodging her crossbows, but besides that, it's an easy first phase with a badass design, like a combination between Artorias and Millennia. After defeating Harrower Dervla, she'll morph and become the Unbroken Promise. This boss design has to be my personal favorite within Lords of the Fallen, and this is where the difficulty of the fight becomes more memorable. Overall, bosses in Lords of the Fallen aren't the hardest by any means, but they sure look cool as hell. This boss also gets a remembrance with a badass armor set, and weapons to top it off. Alright, there you guys have it. That's my top 15 boss fights within Lords of the Fallen. Let me know in the comments section where you guys would have ranked these. Do you guys think I'm an idiot? Where would you have put Eliane the Starved? Let me know all of it in the comments section. Now remember to like, comment, subscribe, do anything you guys can to help me. I am just one guy and I make these videos because it is my passion. So thank you very much. Have a nice day. This has been DrewSpacely. Peace. Okay, all jokes and memes aside, whoever thought it was cool to put Deacons of the Deep as the final boss fight for this game should be fired. That's fucking crazy.